Welcome back. This is the second episode in our mini series for our new program, Elevate and Lead. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Barbara San Roman. I'm Megan Swan. I'm a wellness coach and consultant, the founder of Megan Swan Wellness. And we're going to riff today a little bit on why we spend too much time, women in particular, reading the room. Barbara, give us a little intro and start us off.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. So I'm Barbara, founder and CEO of Be Bold Group, and I work with female founders in startup to growth phase. And we are here talking about maybe one of my favorite topics. When we were thinking about what our program looks like and how to really support women to dive in, one of the things that came up for me is I stepped into leadership and I was constantly consumed. And when I say consumed, I was consumed by the thoughts and opinions of others because I wanted to do well by them. And I think that so many times we think about people pleasing as this negative thing. We want to grow out of it. But at the core of that, like, you're a good person and you want to do right by people and you maybe love the people that you work with and you want to make sure that they're happy. So I think that there's good behind it. There is, good behind the work that we want to do. And I really wanted to do well by people. I was stepping into leadership. I want to make sure that people felt heard. They felt respected. They felt like they were a part of this larger piece of work that we had in the world. And with that comes a lot of growth, because working with people, they're also human and they have thoughts and opinions, and it's okay to disagree or not be on the same page. And one of the things that when we were thinking about our program, Elevate and Lead, is how we can support women to feel confident in the work they're doing. Yes, we're going to listen. Yes, we're going to, engage others, but also men don't spend as much time as we do reading the room. And that's really where we said, and this is where we stop. And this is where we, dive in, because that can also hold us back from the way that we operate and the way that we lead.
Yeah. So, everything you said there comes from such good intentions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also so much of how we're socialized as women, as little girls, make sure everyone's happy first, the people pleasing. So on the one side, you're like trying to people please the individual that gave you the opportunity to be a leader, right? So make sure you don't disappoint as a leader. Mm-hmm. But then as quickly see as a leader of a team that trying to make everyone happy is literally impossible. And you're going to have to make some hard decisions, or, leave your own, best read of the, situation out of it, or sort of let somebody else have a little bit too much power when you really know that that's not the best plan. So I think it comes to being really clear with your personal boundaries. How much information do you need to share your personal information? For example, I think a lot of women find that kind of challenging, because we tend to think we tend to be socialized. In order to connect with people, we need to give them a lot of personal information and essentially befriend them. And that's not always the best, course of action. And at the same time, when we do sort of befriend them, it becomes even that much harder to disappoint them, or to say no when we need to say no, or to put up that boundary. And so I think it's kind of like a very delicate line that we need to learn to walk. And then also at the same time, it's about just trusting your instincts on some level. So I don't know if you can speak to that, like this line of, you need to be aware when you're people pleasing, opposed to, taking the best course of action as a leader. There's nothing wrong with connecting on a personal level with your teammates, or your team. But there also needs to be, like, for you personally, I guess what it comes down to is you need to figure out as an individual, like what makes you feel safe on a nervous system level. So maybe it's like never sharing anything about your kids, for example, like leaving that out of the office. Or maybe it's, not talking about other people behind other people's back, like ever.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, just doesn't happen. So just finding your own personal sense of values and boundaries and then honoring them. What do you think?
Yeah. And then I think the nervous system piece was so critical, because I think if we don't notice that from the start, like there are absolutely triggers that you have as a person, as a leader, as a human being, and going into multiple situations just by default, because you're stepping into leadership, you're going to be in more settings, you're going to be in more team meetings, you're going to be, interacting with more people. And that leaves the door open to more people that can possibly trigger you in not a good way. And I think recognizing what those are and knowing what those are and then harnessing those emotions, I think is more important than saying like, I'm just going to ignore them. Because if I know that it's not even a person, it's maybe a comment or an act or a behavior or something that is triggering. And for me, I more so self-silenced. So if I heard something that like angered me or upset me or did something, I would automatically self-silence, because I didn't want to give that person the power to see me just completely
or triggered.
have that response. Which also wasn't right, because I have thoughts and opinions that I want to share that disagree with that. And that was something that I was doing, and I was self-silencing myself. So I think that one is recognizing having a better understanding of your nervous system and using that to your benefit. I think that there's a lot of work out there around like nervous system regulation that I started learning more about to support just my own journey. And I think that the main key takeaway that I learned in working with my own leadership coaches and people that have mentored me along the way is you don't have to stop the trigger. You don't have to stop the anger. You don't have to stop that feeling. You just have to learn to harness it. And I think that shift in my thinking also allowed me to say, okay, it's okay for me to feel all these things. But I don't have to be upset that I feel all of those things. I don't have to be like consumed by the fact that, this person thinks this, or I'm disagreeing with this person, or they're, now going to be, I don't know, any and all stories that I could have made up in my mind.
Yeah, well, it's like it becomes this double stressor, right? So you have the emotion, you feel like it's not appropriate to express it exactly how maybe it's, coming up in that moment. But then you have like another level where you're self-judging for being emotional, because there's all of this, untrue narrative that women are A, more emotional, and B, being emotional is, quickly conflated with being crazy.
Right.
Or out of control. And instead, like the harnessing anger is a great example. Like when you can acknowledge, this situation is making me very angry, and really identify, what strain of anger, why is it a pulse point for me? Well, because there's like, this isn't justice happening here. This is not just, it's making me angry. So using that anger to fuel the motivation you need to do the project, or, maybe it's not this exact, you don't apply it to the exact situation in that moment, but it's a way of finding new motivation and passion, and why it's so important that you're doing what you're doing. So I think that's really important.
And I found that, speaking of those stressors, I found that one of mine in unpacking all of this was that how other people would perceive me, and however they would perceive me was like not in alignment with how I would describe myself. So they would say or think something either openly or to somebody else that didn't align with what I believed my core values were. And I think that was something that I found out that I needed to kind of sit in and say, like one of the things that I did that my leadership coach at the time supported me to do, she's like, okay, the 98% of people that do align with this and do know you for who you are, ask them what they believe your core values were. And that was such an eye-opening experience, because I was then able to focus on the good and seeing like, okay, most people do see me for like all of this work that I've done to show up as this person is really happening. And most people see that. And I cannot get caught up in this space where people don't see me for who I am. And one, know that that's not the majority. And two, be okay with that. And I think sitting in this discomfort of people are not everyone is going to see you for how you want to be seen. And that's okay. And that little sentence is such like can take years of work.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the things that that Megan and I want to try to do through the program, through Elevate and Lead, is to shorten that. It doesn't have to take you years by yourself, journaling and working through and unpacking all of this. We believe that through these micro learning experiences, we can expedite this growth to feel good in the work that you're doing and sit in this discomfort, but with people that are supporting you.
Yeah. And essentially build that self-awareness instead of being so focused on the external, like what everybody else is opinions are. So of course, there's like a combination of learning to be a little bit more humble and, considering how other people are perceiving you. But at the end of the day, it's more awareness on the internal and being able to decide in a given moment, like, do you need to read the room or do you just need to show up from a true authentic place and trust that the majority of people are seeing you for your good intentions.
Yes. I love that.
See you in the next one.
See you in the next one.